So in our last video, we learned that an absolute value graph, the absolute value of x, makes a V shape. In this video, what we're going to do is start exploring shortcuts. So we're going to learn a quick and easy way to graph absolute value functions. And actually, this is one of the most important videos of the semester, of the school year even, after we learn our little patterns. But before we can get there, we have to figure out what those patterns actually are. So I want to graph for this first one here, y equals the absolute value of x minus 5. And I'm going to go ahead and make a little table for that. Now, when you make your table, you guys don't know enough yet about absolute value graphs to know exactly where the vertex is going to be. If I were to plug in the wrong numbers though, like picture for a second, like on my last graph, let's say I didn't know that this point was the vertex and I only plugged in these dots right here. Well, I wouldn't see a V at all. It's really important that you can know where that vertex is going to be. And we'll get there, but the vertex on this picture is actually at a positive 5. So when I choose my table, I'm not going to start at 0. I'm actually going to start at a positive 5. And the other points I'm going to choose to use right here are 4 and 6. Where I got those numbers from, not terribly important right now. You'll figure it out later on in the video. But those are the x's I'm going to choose to plug in. If I plug in a 4 to this equation, 4 minus 5 is a negative 1. Absolute value of negative 1 is a positive 1. So the point 4, 1 is going to be on this first picture, 4, 1. Well, if I plug in a 5 to this equation, 5 minus 5 is 0. Absolute value of 0 is still going to be a 0. So 5, 0 is on this graph. If I plug in a 6, 6 minus 5 is 1. Absolute value of 1 is still a positive 1. So the point 6, 1 is on this picture. If I plug in 3, 3 minus 5 is negative 2. Absolute value negative 2 is a positive 2, etc., etc. So what I see is a picture like this. So my picture for this first V right here, if you recall our old picture, the parent function was over here at 0. This one is centered at positive 5. So it looks like what this picture did is it moved right 5 from the original. When a graph is shifted or moved like this, it's called a translation. And this right here translates my picture right 5 units. I could sit here and I could make a table for each of these, and that would be cool. But I want to go a little faster and show you guys how you can actually use the calculators we have in class to do these same sort of pictures right here. So instead of making a by hand table, I'm going to cheat a little bit and use my calculator. So in the calculator, I can go up to my y equals menu. The y equals menu is where you graph everything on these calculators. And it's going to give me a list right here that I can plug into. The absolute value buttons on our calculators are in the math menu. So I'm going to hit math and I'm going to go over to number right here. So I hit math and I went right arrow to go to the number tab. This abs option right here stands for absolute value. If I hit enter on that, it's going to give me a little set of bars on my picture. The X button on your calculator is right here next to the green guy. It's the one with all the variables on it. So I'm going to type X, and it's plus 5 like this. So that's my equation that I'm trying to type in right there. And if you look at this graph, this appears to be actually, if you count it out, left 5 units. Okay? So my second picture, absolute value of X plus 5, actually moved to the left 5 units. My next equation has a minus 5, but on the outside of the absolute value bars instead of on the inside. So if I take absolute value of x, so I go abs x, this time I want my minus 5 on the outside, subtract 5, and I hit graph up here. That actually takes my picture. My original would go like right here, and it moved it down 5 units. So if you do a subtraction on the outside, that's how you move your picture or translate your picture down. That leaves us with one more right here, and you guys probably can guess what's already going to happen, but I'm going to show you anyway. If I change that minus 5 to a plus 5 on the outside, so it matches up with that last equation, That is going to move my graph up 5 units. So if you have an equation and you add or subtract a number, it is going to move your graph left, right, up, or down. Okay? And these right here, depending on what you do, controls what direction it's going to move. There's one more thing I need to show you guys before I give you the shortcut. And this ends up being very easy once you do it, once you learn what's going on. I want to, instead of adding or subtracting a number, multiply by a number instead. So I'm going to put a 5 on the outside of my absolute value graph. If I do that, you guys saw how the old graph was a lot wider, like this. It makes your graph skinnier and narrower when I multiplied by 5. And actually, if I go up 5 over 1, I land on my graph. So when you multiply by a number on the outside, this guy controls the basically slope of the sides of your picture. So let's go ahead and kind of formalize this and give you guys official rules right here. So these are the rules for translating graphs. Rules for translations. The general form that I'm going to use with a bunch of variables in it for absolute value graphs is going to go like this. I'm going to put y equals a absolute value x minus h plus k. It's not super important if you memorize those letters, but you see that a lot. You would have seen this in Algebra 1 with vertex form with your parabola. Same sort of concepts. The number on the inside right here, this h, controls your left and right movements, but it does the opposites of what you would expect. You guys will hear me say this a lot in this class. Inside is left, right, does the opposite. Let me go back up to my examples here. When I did a -5, you would think, oh, -5, negative is left. But a minus actually moves your graph to the right by that much. A plus, on the other hand, +5, positive, oh yeah, it actually moves it to the left. So the inside is left and right movement. It does the opposite of what you would think. Outside number is up and down, but it's what you would expect. It's normal. Minus is down 5, plus is up 5. So my outside number, that k that you see right there, k controls the up and down movements, and it's normal. It's exactly what you would expect. The last thing you need to know is this guy right here, this a. This controls the slope of the rays. And if you can remember, this is like a memorize box right here. If you know all of this, graphing absolute values is really, really easy. And I'm gonna do one more video for this section, and you guys will see how simple these rules are once you've learned them.